You have the archetypes of king, warrior, magician, and lover. From your experience, how can a modern man undergo an initiation process to fully embody those archetypes? Meet Ryan Mosby White. He is on a mission to help men uncover their purpose and build conscious relationships. He has helped hundreds of men heal the childhood trauma that is getting stuck in the way of their true potential. Get stuck in, guys.
I know that when a man reclaims the strengths that he was supposed to gain at each stage of development, from boy to man to leader, a lot of those archetypes are naturally kind of awakened within him, right? So like the lover, the man who's deeply connected to his heart, it's like, when he had his dependency needs met and he was able to develop and cultivate a connection to himself emotionally, it's like that lover archetype, he's like, there's already that connection to it, where he's not stuck in his head and disconnected from head to heart, right? That's just a natural byproduct, right? Or when a man's reclaimed his anger, or he's claimed his anger because he had that safety as a boy to know that he could be angry at his parents and they wouldn't take love away from him, right? He claims the warrior, the part of him that can set boundaries, the part of him that knows this is my energy, the part of him that knows what he wants and goes after what he wants. Like, you think of a little child, they will fight to have their needs met. They will fight for the things that they want. They will go after what they want. They dream big. They go after what they want, right? And when a man's constantly shut down, or a child is shut down time and time again, they stop going after what they want, and they start abandoning themselves and becoming just whoever they need to be. And they start neglecting what it is that they truly want, and they start to just become whoever they feel that they need to be. So I believe a lot of these archetypes are a natural byproduct of us actually just going through the stages of development that we were supposed to go through. And a big part of that is the rites of passage from boy to man. That's been disconnected for hundreds of years. Over the last hundreds of years, it's definitely been lost in the Western world. There's countries that still embody those rituals, like in Africa. I know that's still part of their culture. And it's where they strip the boy away from his mother. They create that separation from his oxygen supply of love and nurturing from his mother. And he goes and lives with the men, and he's put through challenges where he learns from his ancestors and from the lineage of the masculine, of what it means to be a man and what it means to breathe on your own. Yeah. So I believe, a lot of those archetypes come from a man going through those initiations.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. Let's dig in. So those people kind of in those African tribes, they obviously take someone away. What's the purpose of that? And then I'd be interested to kind of look at like, hey, this is what these guys are doing, and then how are we extracting that and kind of creating that for ourselves in Bali or wherever we are. How do we do that? And especially it's interesting that, we're the age we are now, and these guys do it when they're maybe like 13, 14, 15.
Yeah.
And then we're coming up late 20s, and it's like, right, it's probably time to do the initiation now.
Yeah.
Is it different? Does it change? It's a different type of initiation. I'm curious like what it is they actually do, and then what the purpose of that is, and then how we can kind of like extract.
I'll bring it back to the motherly energy. So this is where the mother wound comes from, is when we're welcomed. So first of all, when we're conceived, we're in the womb, right? The nurturing, we're being held, being nurtured as we develop and grow. Then we come out into the world, and that energy, that umbilical cord is cut, but energetically that we still need to be held and supported by the womb of the world, of our parents, of our caregivers, of the people around us, our family, our grandparents, all of it. It's like this womb of love and support. That energy of love, support, nurturing, and care, what happens is a man needs that to a certain degree, a certain point, but he gets to a point where he needs to cut that cord and learn how to stand on his own 2 feet. And what's been recorded through centuries, there's the famous book called Iron John, and that story was told in the 1700s. And it's about the initiation from boy to man. A boy has been stripped away from his mother, or from that motherly, nurturing, caring energy, from ages around 7 to 14. Because I know that's really where that separation begins, when a man needs to go through that development. then what happens is he creates that separation. So he learns how to stand on his own 2 feet and how to really cultivate a strong sense of self, how to really hold his own, how to really be the man for the family. Yeah. And then he comes back to the family. So I love to explain, because a lot of people have watched the movie or the series Vikings.
Mm,
And in Vikings, you'll see Bjorn, he goes on his own adventure. He goes on this solo adventure where he goes out into the woods and he goes and kills a bear. He goes and lives on his own. And you'll see, if you go back and watch that series, before he was the boy. And that boy, he knew that there was something within his soul that he needed to go and experience this challenge and go through this initiation so he could prove himself as a man. But for the most part, to prove himself to himself. And then he comes back and you can feel the difference between the boy and man.
love that.
Yeah.
So I have a follow-up question. Is initiation, is it necessary that it's voluntary, or can initiation be created externally and kind of thrown upon you?
I believe if you don't choose your initiation, life will initiate you in some way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's time.
Yeah,
It's
it's
time.
fucking time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and most men wait until it's painful enough. It's like it's like the feather brick in the truck. There's these constant small little invitations over time, and we wait until it's painful enough to go on that initiation. It's like you can choose that initiation before you have to, and you have no other option but to. You can wait for that, or you can make it, your purpose and your mission as a man to um, listen to those subtle callings of initiation.
Mm,
Yeah.
what does that look like?
Mm.
What does that look like? And what are you listening to?
Listening to this, if there's that part of you that's like, I struggle being on my own.
Mm.
Yeah, I feel alone most of the time. I need a relationship to feel good. I'm addicted to scrolling social media. I'm addicted to these vices that have a fucking control over me. That creating separation between you and your addictions and your bad habits that don't serve you, right, takes for you to meet the depths of your soul and heal that little boy that's seeking for things outside of him to feel good, to regulate his nervous system. Because that's one of the strengths that we don't gain when we don't have that rites of passage, is because you don't learn how to stand on your own 2 feet and breathe on your own. You stay dependent on things to nurture you.
Mhm.
And this is where men then get into a relationship from the point of seeking for a woman to mother him and
Mm.
nurture him. And she's like his main source of connecting to himself, feeling connected to himself, and feeling like soothed and nourished in himself. And the problem with that is that when she's not okay, he's not okay, because she's his source of love and happiness and connection and self-regulation.
Mm.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
Is it possible to, I want to get into kind of like what initiation actually looks like tangibly. I'm interested in relationships here then. Do you need to do the work outside of the relationship first? So, for example, when someone's looking for a mother there subconsciously, is that something that once it becomes apparent within the relationship, you believe or you can teach men that now there's the opportunity to heal it? Or is it something where it's better to do the work outside,
Mm.
develop yourself, develop your character, kind of, yeah, fill yourself up, connect to something higher, and kind of get your source of energy and your purpose from that, then it's kind of like the right woman finds you? Or do you find that if you are in a relationship and you have that mother dynamic,
Mm.
it could be sold for men? Or it's something that it's like, hey, this relationship was the wrong foundations. It goes,
Yeah.
work on yourself, and then a new relationship will come. What's your approach there?
Yeah. I believe that relationships are one of our deepest spiritual initiations, along with business.
Hmm. Hmm.
And with that, I believe that the most profound healing can happen in relationship. And typically, like that's where it does. It either happens in the relationship or by the relationship breaking down.
Hmm.
Yeah. Now, I believe that we all need to go on our own individual journey to reconnect with ourselves, come home to ourselves. That can be done in relationship, but I don't believe that happens doing it together, like relationship coaching. That didn't work for me. Yeah, working with my partner was like, no, I needed to be on my own journey of healing the part of me that was afraid of being alone and was avoiding that loneliness that was keeping me stuck in that relationship and codependent in that relationship because I didn't want to face myself and being alone. That was my own individual initiation I needed to go on. And I feel that, yes, there's definitely the dynamics between each other in relationship. And I'm not a specific relationship coach. That's not my embodiment, but I will indirectly teach relationship through a man building that relationship with himself and coming home to himself. And that's the most important journey that we all go on, whether in your relationship or not. Whether that's, and in that journey, what starts to happen is you start seeing yourself as the man who you really are. What happens is you then start seeing people for who they actually are, not the fantasy you've created of them. And sometimes that is realizing, wow, how much I've lost myself in this relationship because this person doesn't actually have the capacity to meet me in relationship. And then it's going, okay, well, maybe this isn't it for me. Yeah. And it's then having that courage to go on that initiation of allowing yourself to grieve that and step away. Yeah. Grief has been my deepest initiation that has taught me so many things. And I truly believe that if you're not willing to grieve, you're not willing or you don't have the capacity to fully experience life. Yeah, because you're not willing to let go of things that don't serve you anymore, to invite in what does serve you. So, yeah.
So grief is a catalyst for allowing more of what you kind of deeply do desire. So, but you can't have it. That's really interesting. I've not thought of it like that before. So, would you describe when you keep mentioning obviously initiations? Is it usually are we being initiated all the time? We're being called to step up all the time. Are there kind of like specific initiations, like an initiation for grief? Is there an initiation for like through anger? Does each emotion have its own initiation? Is it something that happens naturally, or is it something that you can go, hey, I need to work on my anger and I need to turn my anger into creativity?
Yeah.
I will take on this initiation. What's your wisdom around that? I'm curious.
Yeah. So being initiated into something always comes back to the hero's journey. So Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. We are always going through a hero's journey in some way. We have little journeys within big journeys. In the hero's journey, what it is there's the calling to adventure. So that's the first step, calling to adventure. Now, those who are willing to listen to that calling to adventure are those who are willing to go on that initiation, whatever it is. It might be grief. It might be him allowing himself to feel and be seen and process his shame. I'm not sure what it could be anything. But when he allows himself to accept that calling to adventure, what then happens is step 2 is then a mentor appears. And that mentor will be in the form of maybe a book, maybe this podcast, maybe an actual mentor, right? And that mentor will be the one that will help him and create enough safety for him to know that, okay, I can actually do this. And what then happens is he crosses what's called the threshold. And he crosses that threshold into the unknown world, a world that he's never experienced before. And this is where he starts descending into the depths of his soul. And at the bottom of that is the pit. And it's the cave. And there's the famous quote, the cave you fear most entering holds the treasure that you seek. That's the initiation. And it's going into that cave and feeling and processing whatever it is that is there for you to gain the strength or the weapon or whatever it is that you're supposed to gain. It could be a new identity. It could be you coming back home to your power, who you really are as a man, and starting to now see yourself through the eyes of that. Then what happens is, and in order for us to be reborn, we must first die. And that's what happens. There's the death of the ego in the pit. Then when we come out of that cave, what happens then is we think things are great, and then we're faced with the old challenges. And the reason we're faced with those is because it's making sure that we've actually received what we were supposed to receive in the pit. So we keep getting faced with the challenges. And then as we just keep overcoming those, we eventually come back up into the ordinary world of what's familiar. And this is where you can then start sharing that new gift and that new embodiment and lesson to the world. This is why coaches who haven't been to the depths of their soul can't take people there. And it's the reason why their content doesn't land, because it's not felt. So there's that depth of embodiment. And that's why you can't, at some point it'll be exposed that you haven't actually been through that initiation, because you don't have the embodiment or the weapon or the skill that you were supposed to develop in that pit. Yeah. So I believe we're always going through initiations, and it's the conscious, it can be a conscious choice to take on whatever the initiation is. Yeah.
I love it, man. Mate, and you're so right with like the coaches and the content and stuff. And I kind of like don't let it bother me, because it's like the truth has nothing to prove, right? And it's like people can see it, you know, but it's also, that's part of their, I guess, initiation as well. It's like, oh, I think maybe I've been there in the past, is kind of over leaning into an identity, and then you get humbled very, very quickly. So you get the lesson very, very quickly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess my question, let me throw some thoughts at you.
Yeah.
So I love everything you said about the hero's journey, and it's kind of this journey to integration, and then you can actually give the gifts from the depths of your soul. It's fully embodied. So part of this podcast, part of everything that I'm interested in doing is kind of leaving some SOPs for people, some like more spiritual SOPs, some more relationship SOPs, because, and again, this is what we've tried to do through culture. We have maybe like our ancient texts and all of this, and it's kind of like, hey, here's some life SOPs. This works. Just do these, and then you can focus on the other stuff. Like you can then focus on building rockets if that's what you need to do. And what I find is, like, at the moment, we've kind of, it's good to question things, but we've kind of got to this place where for a while everyone was questioning everything, and then we're all falling apart. There's nothing we agree on. And you kind of see that reflected in politics, whatever. So I guess kind of what I'm interested in doing is just leaving some SOPs for people. And it's like, right, practice these, and then you can then focus on the stuff that's actually important to you. And then I guess kind of my question there is, at the start of the podcast, you spoke about these tribes in Africa, how they willingly volunteer this kind of, or they go into this initiation where they're taken away, they leave their mothers. So it's great exploring all of this stuff through life, and like life will, what's they say, first the universe whispers, then it talks, then it screams at you, and then it just shakes a reality so that you have to listen to it. Okay, that's one way of learning. Is there wisdom in these initiations where it's like, you're going to learn this lesson, we're going to take you at 12 years old, you're going to go and learn this lesson because we haven't got time for you to find it out. We haven't got time for you to fuck around. Go and learn this lesson, then because we've got jobs for you to do. So I'm curious if there's any kind of initiation you see like that, and maybe in the work you do with your brotherhood as well, where it's like, hey, forget waiting around to find this out. We're all going to go through this initiation together, get this one sorted, get this one done. We all need to take this necessary step. Yes, it's going to suck. We're all going to do it. Tick. Cool. We can move on to the next thing. Do you feel like there's anything like that we need as men, kind of like collective initiations that we can all go through? The kind of voluntary as well, and like, what is that if there is one?
Yeah, there's so many small little initiations that I believe men need to experience and go through. There's, first of all, the initiation of brotherhood and connection with other men, and feeling safe to connect with other men, feeling safe to lean on other men for emotional support, to experience healthy, safe brotherhood of where you can be challenged but supported at the same time. Now, I believe that, when a man experiences that healthy masculine energy growing up, he has that safety within himself to cultivate that brotherhood with other men, and to bring the sacredness of the masculine through him, of that support. Because when he doesn't have that, he then leans on the feminine for support, or he might notice that he has a whole lot of feminine nurturing around him where he's actually disconnected from his power. So there's that initiation of cultivating brotherhood. Absolutely. I believe there's also a physical and initiation that needs to take place as well, in some degree, whether it's a chosen. There's the famous word or experience or initiation called the misogi, right? Whether it's this one event that you consciously choose to do that sucks, or that's going to be the initiation. It's not going to be easy. It's going to stretch and expand your capacity as a man. Now, that could be, let's say, I know some men every Sunday they have their misogi, and misogi could be, I know on Sunday I do leg day, right? And then I put on a backpack and I go hike a mountain, right? And I reconnect with nature and I challenge myself physically, right? There's this sense of confidence that comes through a man when he knows that he's got himself physically and he can take on those challenges. Another misogi could look like and misogi is pretty much the word for initiation or challenge, right? It could be one big thing that you do every year. Yeah. So that could be, so for me, it's going to America this year. And that's a big thing. It's a long way to go over there. It's completely foreign. It's completely unknown for me. And my initiation is going there and networking with people and establishing myself there and doing it on my own and doing a podcast tour or whatever over there in America. Like that's my one big thing this year that I know is going to stretch me as a leader and expand my capacity. Right. But I believe that there needs to be a real physical challenge that men put themselves through, chosen suffering physically. And a lot of people do that through training, but they do it from the wrong place. So many men are training from the wrong place. They're not training from the place of, I'm choosing this to be the embodiment for the people that I'm leading. I'm choosing this because I'm moving my body from the place of being connected to myself. They're doing it from the place of vanity, of being seen and perceived another way, or wanting to be seen by the world or attract women or whatever it is, right? So there's also from what place you're choosing the initiation from. For example, one initiation that one of me and my brothers did was, and super simple, like this is something that, someone can go and do this weekend, was we were at this business event. And at that business event, there were things that came up for both of us. And for the most part, it was mostly around not wanting to take time off working. And it was that struggle of working 7 days a week, even a Sunday. And it's like, real hesitation, which means I was addicted. And I wasn't allowing myself to actually experience life flow through me. So there was that. And then there was also the expanding of capacity of, as a leader, allowing yourself to have life flow through you by taking time off, creating space so you can actually lead in fullness. So it was this business event that we went to that was expanding our capacity of what this next level of leadership's really going to look like and feel like. So what we did was we're like, cool, let's go climb as our physical initiation to signify this choosing of stepping into this next phase of our embodiment as men. We're going to pick the highest mountain where we live and we're going to go climb it on Sunday.
Nice.
No, we just had shorts on, no shirt, barefoot, and this thing was gnarly. It was so steep. We got probably like 100 meters in and I looked down and I was like, holy shit. And it was just, what I got from that was just one step after the other. Just don't look down, just one hand after the other. And we got to the top and it was like, even though that was so hard, it was just one step after the other. And then it was getting to the summit and then looking at how far we've come. And it was this real symbolic, felt sense of this physical challenge where we got to feel it at the top of the mountain and go, wow, like, I'm proud of you, brother. And I'm proud of me. Yeah. And I'll never forget that Sunday morning of that initiation kind of encompassed the entire week of that business event that we were at that was really signifying this next level of leadership.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome. I do something similar here. Haven't been doing it recently because it's been rainy season here in Bali, but do something similar with one of the mountains here and take a small group of guys up the mountain And it's this, I don't like saying the name, even though it's easy to find, but it's this one mountain in Bali that no one really knows about, even though it's huge. And you can see it from everywhere. Oh, it's basically, it's not a touristy one, so they don't run hikes up there. The locals occasionally do it.
Yeah.
But it's basically, there's 3 trails up it, and they're really like off the beaten track. You have to kind of know, and it's gnarly, and it's like jungle the whole way up. But we do that, and we do some sort of kind of a uh, sort of a ceremony in it as well. I'll just say that. Um, but again, really, really kind of careful with the group of guys I select, and kind of pairing it so it's kind of the right type of energy. But it's this beautiful thing where it's hard, right, on the way up. It's a tough mountain. And it's humid as well. It's in the jungle. There's bugs biting you and all of that. There's leeches grabbing you. It's great fun. And then by the time you get to the top, obviously you've gone through that adversity together, and you feel that connection, and that release. And then what I've always noticed, and I say this a lot, what I've always noticed is on the way down from the mountain, that's when people's hearts really open up. And I really find this with guys. This is what has been missing, or was missing for me, is I don't necessarily need therapy. Yeah, maybe there's some good things for therapy, but my therapy has been, and what I want to provide for others as well, is let's do something difficult together. Then we trust each other. Our barriers are brought down. Now, on the way down from the mountain, when there's not the same level of physical exertion and kind of potential danger, that's when people's hearts open up. That's when the guy goes, "Oh yeah, how's your girlfriend?" "Well, actually this." And you just always notice it. You don't have to kind of facilitate it. The mountain does it for you.
Yeah.
Done something hard on the way down, shoulder to shoulder, people's hearts open up. You get these little pairings where group of 3 go off and they have their own little chat, and it's magic, and it happens every single time. And from hearing you talk, I'm like, oh, it's kind of like an initiation
Yeah.
that's happening there. And yeah, so I guess like question or kind of thought off the back of that is, do you find it's different for men and women in terms of like what bonds us and what we need for our own development? And because advice gets thrown around in a very much sort of like a blanket way, like, hey, you need this. And is it different for men and women? Like, do we kind of integrate things and learn lessons and connect in different ways? Do we need that separation? Do men need time each week where they're with their brothers, and do women need time each week where they're with their sisters? And yeah, I'm curious, like, how your work either kind of agrees with that or counteracts some of that. And yeah, just what your thoughts are there.
Yeah. That's one of the very few things that I would say we need. Like, that's so important, is that men have their men and women have their women. What's also really important in that is, as we're developing, and I take, this is really the work I do with family constellations, is seeing the system that you come from. What happens is, at a certain age, a little boy needs to break away from the women and go live with the men, go connect with men, go learn what it means to be a man. Now, that's for men. For women, what will happen is they will take interest in their father, and their father will love and support them as a little girl. And then at some point he goes, or at some point he's supposed to go, hey, it's now time for you to go, like, you're becoming a woman now. It's now time for you to go be with the women, go learn what it means to be a woman. And he sends her off to go be with that. And it's like, now we experience what it means to be in community, in tribe, as men, as women, and we learn what it means to be a man or a woman. We gain the strengths that we're supposed to gain. And in that, we are able to no longer, I wouldn't say no longer, but it helps us when we're out in the world, where we're no longer seeking for, like, a man is no longer seeking to find his mother within another woman, if that makes sense, because he's created that separation. When a little girl has that support from her father, right, he's there and he sends her off to go be with the women, she feels this sense of, I don't have to go and find my father in another man now. This is where healthy relation comes from. Now, most people think, like, yeah, like, we live in modern times, like, that doesn't happen. We don't sit in community. We don't send each other off to go be with men and women. Through what's called family constellations, It's coming back to this system of our family. And within this system of our family, allowing us to feel the life force, the flow of energy of our ancestors flow through us. So think of a system like in nature or your nervous system or any kind of system. When there's one thing that's out of place in the system, it affects the entire system. Yeah. So when there's something out of place within our family system, generationally, we block the flow of that life force energy flowing through our ancestors into us. So this is where a man can experience, and it's the process that I take them through, where they're able to connect in with their ancestors, with their grandparents and whatnot, and see where the system's been disconnected.
Mhm.
And we can actually create that and experience that connection of things being put back in their rightful place for us to finally see the life force that actually flows through the family. And what will happen is you'll see the masculine, the men, the leaders, the energy, the power of those men flow through the family into you as a man. Now, that's typically what would happen, right? When we go and create that separation where the men go be with the men, the women go be with the women. That life force energy through their ancestors, like they're learning those gifts, learning those strengths that they then take into the world. So, yes, I believe that absolutely we need to have that space for brotherhood and for sisterhood, and to have that, because what happens when we don't have that, we then become solely dependent on our relationship for us to receive that support. And the kind of support that most people are seeking in the relationship is actually something they can't get from the relationship. It's something they need from their brothers or from their sisters.
Mm.
Yeah.
How do you connect to your ancestors? What does that mean?
If someone told me that even 6 months ago, I'd be like, yeah, I get that. And I don't feel it until I went through a constellation process where it was this process of, first of all, me seeing the role that I've played within my family. So basically what happens is you have all of these models on a table and you feel into the felt sense of where you would be, of where dad would be, of where mum would be, of where my brother, my sister would be. And you place these models out on the table and you can see right away this system, because it's a felt sense, right? But before, like our attachment system, how we relate is through felt sense. It's through feeling, it's through touch, it's through movement, it's through our awareness of our physical body in space and time. That's how attachment develops. So by physically moving these models that you have on a table in place, you can feel where someone would be in your physical space.
Mm.
And it maps the system that you actually come from and the role that you play in that system. So when I did this, right, my dad was in front of me to the right, which means that I was his support system because
Mhm.
I was behind him. Mum was behind me looking away. None of us were looking at each other. There's this disconnect and I'm in the middle.
Mm.
So when my parents divorced and separated, I took on that role of the emotional support between the both of them.
Mm.
And I was trying to bring them back together, right? And then I just became the emotional support for dad. So there's this disconnect from the family system. Now, what was through different processes, you are able to start putting people back in their rightful place. And it's this felt sense of you don't need to change anyone, but you can start really feeling that felt sense of what it would have felt like, that safety and security to be in that rightful place. It's very much working with what they call the knowing field, which is, as you know, that we're all connected in some way. And by us actually doing this, we're also in some way influencing the system energetically.
Mhm.
Now, what happened was, and this is really out there, by the way, I know I didn't think I would ever speak about this on a
Let's do it.
podcast so soon. As we start placing each other and ourselves in our rightful place, for example, I placed myself, I allowed my parents to sort their stuff out. And I'm going through a process of them of imagining them and seeing them sort their stuff out with their ancestors and their parents and whatnot. What happens is there then starts to become this sense of connection within the family, this felt sense within me. And they start, and then I move them into their rightful place. So I can just be a child. I can just be a boy, because in that dynamic, I'm taken out of my childhood and the strengths I was supposed to gain in childhood because I became dad's support system. Now, when we work with our immediate family and heal the mother and father wounds, right, we then open up to looking at their parents and then their parents and then their parents. And it was this process of, and maybe it's something you can even do now, is imagining your dad's hands on your shoulders as a man, and then his father's hands on your dad's shoulders, and then your great grandfather's hands on his shoulders, and keep going back. And you mightn't even know the names or the faces, but when I started making that connection, it was like, whoa, I can feel the flow of life force energy of these men flowing through my lineage into me. Yeah. And that was the first felt sense of like, I feel the support of my ancestors. So when I feel challenged in business, when I've got a lot going on, I imagine that, like, dad's hands on my shoulders, like, I've fucking got you. And then that line of men who have been through some incredible things, and that life force energy then flowing through me as a man. So yeah, there's a lot in there.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Ancestral stuff's really fascinating. I've had one guest on. I'll connect you with him while you're here. A guy called Michael. Does something called Primal Law. He spoke about ancestry, and it was my first kind of initiation into that world. And while we're out there, let's stay out there, because why not?
Yeah.
Something I've been thinking about is that obviously this idea of a soul comes up a lot. You hear it all the time, and connecting, going to the pits of your soul. Now, the more kind of like I go down whatever the spiritual path or just this life path, and just hopefully realizing truth, you come through these ideas of like law of one, everything connected, kind of the underlying frequency of love, and like everything's one. And it's like, okay, yeah, this kind of all makes sense. And you kind of maybe intuitively feel it through maybe psychedelic experiences or kind of breath work. And okay, I'm kind of really sink into this kind of feeling of everything connected. There's this underlying creative frequency of love, which is just holding us all. I did a very intense plant ceremony, a toad ceremony, Bufo, a few months ago, not in Bali. And one of the overarching kind of feelings from that was just this feeling of like forever being held, and how monumentally silly like our problems are. It's just hilarious, and just this complete feeling of safety, which is something I'd never felt before. I've realized that, hey, you never ever feel safe, and you're allowed to feel safe. It was beautiful. It was a really life-changing experience for me. A load of other stuff came up. It was an awesome experience, but I kind of really got a sense of that creative potential, what all is really going on here, that creative frequency underneath everything, and that it wants you to succeed, all of this sort of stuff, and that you can draw upon it. Okay, that's interesting. Then, like, the more you dive into texts, the word soul keeps coming up. And something that I'm interested in trying to figure out is like this idea of a soul, like, what is it, and how, if we're all connected and it's, we're all kind of this expression of like divine, and we just kind of, our egos help us to forget who we are, then what is a soul? Like, how does a soul fit in there as well? Is because it's not an ego, but it is unique, but then also it's part of the whole. I'm curious if you have any insights around that. It's something that I struggle to categorize logically. Yeah, I'm just interested to learn.
Yeah. My experience of this has come through plants as well. If we look at nature, nature is always growing and evolving. Like, that's its purpose. It's expansion, breakdown, so there can be a rebuilding, right? I believe that just as, for the most part, as nature grows and evolves and expands, so does our soul. Because my experience of what I experience around like why we're here, like why this soul would come into this physical body, and we're going there, so I'm gonna say it. I went on this journey once with mushroom, and I had a one-to-one conversation with God.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I kid you not, it was question, answer, question, answer. I asked him, why this? Answer, was just flowing through me. It was incredible. I filled like a whole journal of just writing, pictures, drawings, like all this stuff was just flowing through me. It was insane. I asked him why am I here? You know, why this responsibility? Why me? Because at the time, you know, social media was taking off. I was getting thousands of men reach out to work with me. I was like, why me? This makes no sense. There's men who have been doing this far longer than me. Why not them? And it was this constant just message download of like, this is why I put you here. This is why I put you here. And this just kept coming through me. Like, wow, okay. And I just kept writing this down like this. Okay, this is why he put me here. And he then shared with me that, you're my instrument. My hand plays through you. And I was like, whoa, that's really cool. And I also feel like I'm being used. So I was like, what? Like, what? I actually, dude, I asked, I was like, why would you do that to me? And he's like, because I want to be happy.
Mm.
I want to experience life. And I want everyone to also experience life and be happy and to experience the full expression and experience of life. And I've placed all of these men here, and I am those men. I am playing through them too. And their egos are getting in the way and preventing me playing through them and doing what they're supposed to be doing here on this earth so they can experience the fullness of life, because that's God experienced the fullness of life. And it was just this like, what? Okay, this is far greater and far bigger than me. Like these, I couldn't have formulated it. Like these dropped in and I was just right. Like one of my brothers came over. He's like, you right, bro? I was like, I'm sweet. And this is not me. I'm just writing. This is coming through me. And I walked off into the forest for about 2 hours, and I was just sitting there in the middle of nowhere. We were probably in Australia. We traveled probably 4 hours out into the bush, and there was no one around, nothing. And I was just sitting in nature, just receiving this. And that, to answer your question,
Yeah,
I don't know. And also that was my experience with that.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Mate, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. Complete channeling. There's a great prayer. It's the prayer of Saint Francis, right? It's very famous. It's a song as well, and I say this all the time as well. But the first line of the prayer of Saint Francis is "Make me an instrument of Thy peace."
Yeah.
It's sometimes translated as "Make me a channel of Thy peace." And it's funny, the Christian faith, right? I grew up Christian, and then I left it because I was like, some of this is really stupid. Or how it's being embodied is really not. It doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
Then I left it, and then I've not come back to it, but I kind of see it through a different lens now. And I'm like, oh, there's so much truth in here, but just Christians don't realize the truth in it a lot of time. Gandhi has a great quote. He's like, hey, I'd be a Christian if it wasn't for the Christians. I might feel that. But yeah, the prayer of St. Francis, its first line is "Make me an instrument of Thy peace," and it's exactly your insight there, right? It's your job on earth is to allow yourself to be played, and also an instrument is something that, yeah, you can sound great doing a solo and being played, but really the value of an instrument is within the whole orchestra. And, you know, your insight there is like, hey, I need to play you as this instrument, but these other instruments are out of harmony. They're out of time at the moment. Can you help clean them up? Can you help tune them up so that we can play the music? And it's not just about, hey, me or you, Ryan or Tom, like living our full of expression of life. Collectively, if we're all allowing that, the orchestra is playing, that's when God has the opportunity to make music. Yeah, he can do a solo through me or you if we kind of channel and we get out of the way. But the more people you have collectively, the more music God can create and work through. What does that look like? Who knows? But it's amazing there, your insight. It's like, hey, the work is to kind of tune those around me up, fix them, restring them, whatever it is, because they can't be used at the moment. Mate, it's amazing to have that realization. How has it forced you, what have you had to let go of in order to kind of fulfill that mission, what parts of your identity of yourself, what have you had to let go of, and who have you had to step into?
Yeah, huge insecurities around who am I to be doing this? You know, it was the whole the enoughness wound. Yeah, the shame of the little boy who felt that there was, he wasn't good enough. There was something inherently wrong with him or broken within him, or there needed to be something other than himself in order to be received or be loved or whatever. Now, I went and did a podcast not long ago. It was probably a year and a half ago. Before the podcast, I noticed this anxiety, like my body was shaking. I was like, what's going on? And I checked in with my little boy, the younger part of me. He was like, I'm afraid of sharing, this message, this love that I have, and it not be received. Because like when he was a little boy, he was a lot. He asked a lot of questions. I was very expressive. I was very passionate about, anything that I spoke about. And that was a lot for my parents. They didn't know what to do with it, so they would shut it down. So then I minimized my expression. This little boy who just gave his heart all the time and it wasn't received, feared that he was going to share his message and it wasn't going to be received. Yeah. And then by me holding that part of me and going, I got you. You're safe. I've got you. He then asked me a question like, thank you. Does that mean I can be myself? Yeah. So that's me reconnecting with my soul that's here to share a message that's beyond my physical vessel. And allowing that to flow through me is one of the most fun podcasts I've ever done. That little boy was sitting right next to me on the seat and he was welcomed in. But when we disregard or push that part of us away, that's where the insecurities have control over us. So it'd have to be the insecurities of, the following, like the amount of people that have reached out to want to work with me. It's this overwhelming, like the feeling of fraud, imposter syndrome. But what that is that it's our perception of self doesn't match the results that we're actually receiving. So it's a big thing around that. And it was also coming back to that journey that I experienced, I just shared with you around like connecting with God. After that, one of the biggest things I received from that was being able to hold two truths at one time, is the insignificance of all of it. The money, the amount of men that I work with, the purpose, the mission, all of it. It's absolutely insignificant and means nothing. On the other hand, it's significant and it means everything. It's so meaningful and purposeful, right? And it's being able to hold two truths and being able to come back to that allowed me to let go of the part of me that was like fearing losing it all, or fearing being perceived a certain way, or it not being received.
Yeah, so beautiful. I want to ask you about some of the inner child work. I think that's really fascinating. It's funny what you said there. Holding those two truths. It's a really interesting frame, and kind of a bit of a paradox as well. And there's this great quote that I love to think about there, that I think embodies a similar energy to what you just spoke on, and it's this idea of, if you can do something, you must do it, but if you don't, it doesn't matter. And it's like, you have to have both. You have to have that initial energy of like, you must do it. That's there, but also it doesn't matter. And it's like both of those things.
Yeah.
I love that quote. There's a great story behind it of, do you know Wayne Dyer?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you've heard him say that story. He was at a Tony Robbins event and they had these slogans where it was like, if you can do it, you must do it. And like, that was their whole thing for the weekend. Yeah. And then he's passing by and they're like, oh, come do a talk. And he's like, oh, okay, I'll do a talk. And he's looking around at the t-shirts and he's like, that's bullshit. And he gets up on stage and he's like, yeah, I like your t-shirts, but I'd probably add a line like, yeah, you don't, doesn't matter. And everyone's like, like this was the whole theme of the weekend. I've paid thousands of dollars to be here. And Wayne Dyer's just like, yeah, it doesn't matter. But I love that. I've taken that.
I love his book. You must believe it before you see it.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right. That's one of his favorite famous quotes. It's like, usually the quote is like, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
And he's like, you'll see it when you believe
Yes.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice, man. Mate, what have you learned from him? And have you got any other mentors like that? He's one of my favorite.
Yeah. I would say he's actually been a pretty big mentor, along with like Hawkins' work, David Hawkins, Ram Dass, all of that. Really just holding two truths at the same time. And and for the most part, just genuine experience.
Yeah. There's no replacement for that.
No.
When you talk about the inner child, it's something I've been aware of. It's not something I haven't done inner child work. And I'll be honest, when I have done it, I've gone to a somatic practice or something. I'm like, it's just silly.
Yeah.
My girlfriend's been to one recently. She's really into the inner child work, and she often asks me, she's like, what does your inner child want? And I'm like, I don't know. Look, yeah, he has to be quiet right now because I'm working. And she's like, that's exactly the point. That's why I asked you. It's why I asked you. Leave me alone. But she's really good at it now, and she checks in with her inner child, and she's like, now that means that I'm going to go and float over here and draw a picture or something. And which is great. But yeah, for men, what is that? And you said like you had this podcast and your inner child was with you. What does that? Can you unpack that for me? Like someone who's like, okay, I want to heal. I want to be the best version of myself. I'm aware that maybe I need to integrate some of this stuff, but I'm a bit skeptical, and I'm like, is this a bit silly? Like, I've got stuff to work on. What would you say to me?
All roads lead back to childhood. With that is, you were once a little boy, and your life's every single moment that's led you up to sitting on this chair today has been built upon the foundation of that little boy and who he decided to be, who he felt he needed to be, the unresolved wounds and trauma, the emotional, the small, subtle trauma that happens over a period of time where, for example, as children, we're communicating with our parents' nervous system, right? It's beyond language, right? And when our parents are disconnected from themselves emotionally, we no longer have this space to see ourselves as we are, as the very one that we are, as the soul that we are, right? Pretty much it's like our soul is seen through the eyes of our parents that's reflected back to us. They're like our mirror. And through that emotional disconnection from them and many other things like, maybe actual physical abandonment or sexual abuse or emotional abuse or physical abuse, whatever it is, we hold on to that energy because that's what trauma is. Trauma is energy. It's emotion that stays stuck and frozen in the body in that time because it didn't have the safety to be felt or processed, or it didn't know how to because it wasn't represented or role modeled to a child how to actually feel it or process it. Trauma, until we actually feel it and process it and move through it and acknowledge it and welcome it, it stays stuck in the body. Now, for example, when a little boy felt, let's say his dad was very busy and his dad had a lot going on. He was working 7 days a week and he would come home and he lacked the emotional capacity to be with this little boy. This little boy now starts to feel that there's something out there in the world that's more important than me. And then when dad comes home, I'm not getting the love and nurturing and the support that I need as a boy, as a man. And the issue with this is that we don't know the difference. We don't know the difference between what's love and what's emotional abuse. That's emotional abuse. Emotional abuse over time is to experience that disconnection. That's abuse. And we have to call it what it is, because until we call it what it is, we can't actually validate it or acknowledge it. Let's just say a little boy experiences that from his father. He then starts to, when his ego starts growing and developing, starts to create this story that there's always going to be something more important than me, or there must be something inherently wrong with who I am because I'm not getting the love that I need. And survival's more important, so he bees and becomes whoever he needs to be in order to get that love and approval and acceptance. So what happens is this little boy turns into maybe a young man or a man who's seeking and striving for success, for money, for fame, for status, to be seen by women, all of this. But beneath that is a little boy who's trying to get his father's attention.
Mm.
And until we go back to the root cause of that little boy and create the space for that to be felt, that trauma to be felt, that little boy will continuously be the man that's building his business from the wrong place. And because it's being built from that place, he either creates a level of success and never feels enough,
Mhm.
or he creates it and sabotages it because beneath all of that is the little boy who's actually building the business. It's not this man who's living on purpose. Or he finds himself procrastinating a lot, distracting himself a lot, and really struggling in business because of the unresolved trauma, the shame that's actually built up within him.
Mm.
Yeah. So that's how it shows up for a lot of high performing men. And along with that, because that little boy didn't have that safety of emotional connection, his whole life's mission is to get those survival needs met. And in doing so, he neglects his emotional experience, what's happening in himself internally.
Mm.
And because he does that, he doesn't have this space to cultivate a strong connection to his own emotional experience. So he becomes this high-performing, emotionally disconnected man who needs things outside of him to feel better, to regulate his nervous system, that then comes home to a partner that's kind of yearning for his emotional connection to feel his heart. Maybe she needs his emotional support, his pillar, right? To be the pillar for the family. But that capacity is just not there
Mm.
because he's so focused on creating this success from the boy and from the boy who's so disconnected from himself emotionally. So that's really like how it shows up for high performing men. There's so many other ways, like the nice guy, the people pleaser, the victim, the hero, the savior, all these different masks that we put on. The one who's addicted to trauma-based love that seeks women who are actually emotionally unavailable,
Mm.
right? That reflect back to him the unavailability that he experienced as a boy. There's so many ways that it shows up, but that's an example of how all roads lead back to that little boy.
Mm.
And until we go back in and hold him and work with that, then he'll continuously, no matter how hard he tries, he can go do all the physical initiations that he wants. But until he actually connects in with those younger parts of himself, he won't truly be able to hold himself in his depth.
Mm.
And I believe that that little boy, before he needed to be something other than himself, that's your soul.
Mhm.
This vulnerable soul that's welcomed into the world, the fully expressed child, that's your soul. So by us coming back to that, what we're actually doing is connecting with our soul. And a man that wants to be or hold depth and presence and connection is a man who's connected to his soul, because that's what it is. You don't become a deep man, right, by doing all of these things. You become a deep man by coming back to your depth, which is your soul, which is the little boy.
Yeah, you've made that so much cooler for me, man. Yeah, having
That's why I do what I do.
Yeah, it's having that idea of what comes before the little boy, it's the soul.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that makes it so much more, I love that frame. That's really cool. I love that a lot.
Mhm.
So with this kind of inner child work, I mean, is it something that's like, hey, this needs to be done one-to-one mentors, or you go to a somatic healing and you do an inner child session? Or is there something like people who are listening now, there's like one thing that they could do to maybe listen to that voice, or to just go a little bit of the way of even just noticing it's there? Because again, I'll use myself as the example.
Mm.
Like my girlfriend says to me, what does your inner child want? I'm like, no, what inner child? You know? So I'm not even necessarily aware. Maybe I am, maybe it does come up sometimes, I don't know. But what's maybe something someone could do like right away now or day to day, maybe an experience or a decision comes up, and how could they feel into like, oh, what does my inner child want? And then also, I guess my question there is like, what if your inner child wants chocolate cake when you should be in 6 eggs? Because you've been to the gym. Like, when do you say to the inner child, no, you're having eggs because we need to put on muscle mass? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I guess maybe that's a flippant question, but yeah.
Yeah.
What your thoughts there?
I've never experienced like my inner boy or anyone else go, oh, I just want to run wild.
Yeah.
And it's typically, and every time I have, typically it's like he wants to play in nature. He
Mm.
wants connection. He doesn't want a way out. He wants connection. He wants presence. He wants love and nurturing and to be held a lot of times. Connecting him with the boy is, and I don't, for that exact reason, what you shared, like I never resonated with inner child work or like the inner child. I hardly ever speak about it in that way. I say the little boy within you, like that's who I speak to. You know, if you're stuck in work, you got so much going on, you're feeling overwhelmed and stressed. It's like, you know, where did this little boy feel this sense of like overwhelm and stress that he needed to be something other than himself? Why can't he just relax? What's going on there? And that's where you get to hold him. And that is like, well, you know, I don't even know what that looks like. And it's like, got you. Well, then that's where we get to start. And for the most part, I work with so many men. They're like, bro, I have never actually known who I am because I never had this space to be who I am. So when I come back to that little boy before he needed to be something other than himself, he's like, that's a whole different man. That's a whole different person. And the beautiful part with this work is when you go back and connect him with that little boy, you naturally start to see the thread, how it's played out your entire life. And when you reclaim that little boy and be the leadership that he needed and be the man that he needed growing up, or the support, you'll naturally begin to see the thread of the man that you're capable of being in the world because of that too. Yeah. So it's this sense of safety that's created within the nervous system. When you heal the boy, the man awakens. So this grounded, connected man who's connected to his depth, to his soul, is the byproduct of integrating the boy. And it's not heal the boy, you're done. It's that's a part of us, right? That is a part of our psyche. That is a part of who we are. And it's welcoming that younger part of us that will always be there. My little boy still comes up. Yeah. And because that is a part of me that, you know, I once was. Yeah. And it's really holding that. So to answer your question, potentially reframing the word of connecting in with my boy. Yeah. There's so many processes and stuff that we could definitely go into, but I feel that sometimes it robs men the opportunity of really leaning in.
Yeah, it's so cool, man. And
Yeah.
again, like I've been in Bali a while, and there's a lot of spiritual folk, and I don't know, whatever that means. And again, I've definitely seen like examples of this inner child work where I've been like out for a coffee with someone, and they're like, again, because I use that example of like order chocolate cake. Like I've been with people where they're like, "Oh, what would make my inner child happy?" And they pick a cookie, and I'm like, "Is this really like? Is this inner child work? It sounds like it's just it. You sounds like you're just using this inner child work thing as an opportunity to make like bad decisions." Um, but again, this is the thing with like all of this work, right? It gets twisted and warped, and even though that's a small example, again, when like the way you've described it, I'm like, hey, that really makes sense to me. I'm like, okay, this is something I could actually focus on, and I understand the deeper purpose of it now, and how like that idea of being grounded and relaxed into myself.
Yep.
Who doesn't want that, man?
Yep.
But then kind of then when outwardly reflected back to you, you've seen people just kind of eating cookies and being like, oh, my inner child's happy. I'm like, do I really need to do inner child work? Because it feels like I'm going to get fat. The way you described that there was beautiful, man. And it, yeah, really, really resonated a lot more. Do you find that at all, that what I just said, that you have people kind of warping the...
Yeah. This is where I bring men's work into healing the boy. Because men need different things from women. And for the most part, little girls are very expressive, very playful, very, very, like you think of like a little girl, she's la, 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 like painting, drawing, or very expressive, creative, whatever. And so is a boy, right? But then there needs to be that separation between boy and man. And this is where most men are still operating as grown adult children. Until they heal that boy, that little boy who just will eat whatever he fucking wants because of whatever, or does whatever he wants. It has no structure, has no like real discipline or leadership, self-leadership. It's because he's still operating from the boy. The one who schedules things in his calendar and can't fucking stick to it. That's because the little boy struggles with, like, there's so many different ways that it can definitely show up. And this is where, yeah, I bring men's work into this. And
Mm,
you mentioned before, like, you know, one-on-one work, through this. Yes, that's powerful. What's even more powerful in this work is brotherhood and men holding themselves, like holding themselves personally, but then holding other brothers in the brotherhood as well, and their little boy, and seeing the boy in other men as well.
mm,
It's the most healing thing I've ever experienced. So that's
mm,
where I bring brotherhood and men's work to inner boy work, inner child work, whatever you want to call it. And what happens is this beautiful connection and like symphony of men coming back home to themselves. Coming back home to yourself, beneath that healing the boy is reconnecting with your soul. And
mm.
that's what I'm here to do.
Yeah, I love that,
Yeah.
man. That's beautiful. I wanted to kind of quickly pivot to kind of relationships as well, and um, I wanted to ask how do you approach men having standards for themselves in relationships? I think there's been a kind of a big swing where kind of uh, females really got to understand like what they're looking for, um,
Mm.
which is awesome. It's great. I feel like sometimes guys, it was sometimes demonized for them to have standards and have boundaries. Hey, it was maybe put on. They're like, hey, you just have to kind of accept people, and it's like, no, actually, I have some boundaries. How do you teach guys to have boundaries and have standards within a relationship? And what do you maybe teach guys to look for in a partner? Yeah, I'd be curious
Mm.
there.
Yeah. Great question. Now, most men, if I was to ask most men, what does safety feel like in your own body? You had no fucking idea.
Mm,
Well, if someone's not running at me with a knife, then I feel safe. Like I'm good in myself. But until a man truly experiences what safety feels like in his nervous system to be met in relationship, to be loved and supported, but for him to be in his own frame of energy, in his power as a man, he won't know what he needs in relationship to feel safe. So a big part of what I take men through is, if they're in that phase where they're dating or they're starting to open themselves to relationship, once they heal the boy and they reconnect with the little boy and know what he needs in his nervous system to feel safety. Because bring it back a little bit, if you don't know what safety feels like in your own nervous system, you have nothing to reference yourself with. You don't know what unsafety feels like if you don't know what safety feels like. So when he connects that safety that he needed as a little boy, he no longer seeks that safety through partners or
mm,
through relationships because he's cultivated it within his own nervous system. Now, when a man knows what he needs to truly feel safe to stay connected to himself, then when he starts opening himself to relationships, he knows what's unsafe and what's safe. He knows his standards of what I the standard of what I wish to hold to be met in
mm,
relationship. Because relationship's not a thing of overextending yourself for love, right? Or being any less of yourself for love. It's a thing of meeting and being able to experience together, not seeking to fulfill the empty void within each other through each other.
mm,
But that's what most people do. So until he connects in with that, creates that safety in his own nervous system, then he starts to know what's important to him and what it is that he needs to feel safe in relationship. And then he'll also recognize from what place he's actually connecting with women from. Is it like the little boy or is it the man? Is it the man who's clear on what he wants and knows what he needs in order to be met and to feel safe in relationship? Or is this the little boy who wants to be held and nurtured and mothered and just wants to experience connection through sex? Like
mm,
that's where most men unfortunately are. And I've been there, absolutely been there. And that's been a huge initiation for me is yeah, really coming back to my own frame of energy and being super clear with that. So yeah.
mm. Yeah, I see so many girls. I was chatting with someone this morning as well when I was having a tea, and there's so many girls who are saying like, I want like what do they say, like an emotionally available man or emotionally healed man, particularly in Bali as well. There seems to be a real lack of whatever that is. I know there's so many girls searching for that, and so yeah, if that's kind of reason to do the work, guys, like
Yeah.
the girls are looking for it, and
Yeah.
they've been doing some work as well. Obviously, not all of them, but yeah, it seems to be like a real development. It's interesting because we had this Andrew Tate kind of swing, and like I love a lot of what Andrew Tate said. He's hilarious,
Yeah.
man. Like he's so funny. Like people who get pissed off at him, like, come on, he's hilarious. Like, yeah, he's done some absolutely silly stuff in the past. If it's illegal, okay, he'll get in trouble for it, whatever. But he's funny. He speaks the truth about a lot of things. He's charismatic. How can you not like him? And realize like he does play this character and kind of appreciate it for entertainment. But again, I think a lot of what the issue with him isn't him, it's the younger people who viewed him and they didn't view it fully consciously of what he was saying. And then they pick the extremity parts where they're like, Andrew Tate says all of this, and then they take away, oh, smoke cigars and shout at women. Like that's the bit they take away.
Yeah.
And then people are like, I have a problem with that. I'm like, fair enough.
Yeah.
So, but I think it was helpful. Things move in pendulums, right? That tends to be how we learn. We go from one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
I feel like he really helped drag kind of us back to more sort of like this, look after yourself, get your money right, all of this. It came with some other stuff as well. How do you kind of see that? Where do you see that swinging next? Is this kind of like the work you're doing now? Maybe what parts of that message were great, and then what can we kind of look at with a perhaps more mature lens as well?
And now you bring that up, I really feel that everything we've spoken about today is exactly his message, but in a way that probably be received in a more safe way.
We're not going to get banned in schools for it,
Yeah. But I believe everything that we've spoken about today, like from the masculine initiation, from learning how to hold the younger part of you, learning how to, because all of that, the safe man, the grounded man, the man who's deeply connected to himself is the byproduct of everything we just spoke about. Him going through that initiation, him choosing his suffering, him taking care of his physical body, him, healing the younger part of him, the little boy who's seeking for a woman to make him feel better. Like all of that, like in a way, that is actually what he's speaking about. And yeah, so I believe like this conversation, and that's why I'm so passionate about it, because I don't see, and I'd love to connect with other men, but I don't see a whole lot who are, really deep in this work. And so
brother, you're doing God's work. This has been beautiful. I love this conversation. How can people get deeper into your world? And work with you, and find out, think how you think, do the inner work.
just through social media, so Instagram, Facebook, YouTube very soon. I do lots of podcasts as well, where I just get to share. One of my gifts based on like my boy was he's very passionate and expressive, and I love to speak and to share and to respond and whatnot. So that's why I love doing podcasts, to connect with other people. So I do a lot of podcasts. So put out so much value, so much content. I got some free resources, but you'll see it all on my socials. So just go there.
Perfect. We'll link it below. Man, I appreciate that. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. You're a jank. Appreciate it, bro.